All right, today we're going to demystify a really clever trick that AI is using to, well, stop making stuff up. It's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like giving an AI an open book exam. Let's dive in and see how it all works. So, you've totally been there, right? You ask a chatbot a question, and it gives you this answer that sounds super confident, but it's completely made up. That phenomenon, it's called a hallucination, and believe me, it's one of the biggest headaches for AI developers right now. Think about a standard large language model, an LLM. It's kind of like a brilliant student who has to answer every single question from memory alone. It's like taking a closed book exam. Sure, it's incredibly smart, but it's limited to whatever was in its training data. And if that information is old or just doesn't cover what you asked, well, the AI has no choice but to guess. So what's the fix? I mean, what if we could change the rules of the test? Instead of forcing it to rely only on its memory, what if we could give the AI an open book? And boom, that is exactly what RAG does. The name, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, it literally tells you the whole story. First, it retrieves relevant info from an outside source. Then it augments its own knowledge with these fresh facts. And finally, it generates an answer using all of that combined, way more accurate information.
So what we're really talking about here is an architecture that basically bolts an external library onto an LLM. It's like giving it a direct line to live, specific information. And the result? A huge boost in accuracy and a massive drop in those, frustrating made-up answers.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the RAG blueprint. The workflow here is actually pretty fascinating. See, when you ask a question, it doesn't just go straight to the AI's brain. Nope. Instead, it kicks off this little search and rescue mission first. The system goes out and finds the relevant data before it even thinks about writing an answer. So let's break that down step by step. First, your question gets processed and turned into something called a vector. Just think of it like a unique digital fingerprint that captures the meaning of your question. Then, the system zips through a huge database, looking for other documents with a similar fingerprint. That's the retrieval part in action. Finally, your original question plus all this fresh, relevant stuff it just found gets handed over to the LLM. And with all that context, it can generate a much, much smarter answer. Right, so the key thing to get here is that you've got two different players working as a team. You've got the retrieval component, that's your super fast research librarian who finds the perfect articles and pages for you. And then you have the generative component, the LLM itself, which is like that brilliant student who takes all that research and then writes a flawless essay. Two distinct jobs, one great result. Okay, so that's the what and the how. But what about the so what? Why is this such a game changer? Let's get into the real payoff here. And the advantages are, well, they're huge. First off, because RAG is pulling from external sources, you get up-to-date answers, not something from 2 years ago when the model was trained. It also grounds its answers in actual, verifiable facts, which, you guessed it, slashes those hallucinations. You can even point it at a specific database, like your company's internal documents, to get super specialized answers. And maybe the best part? It's way more cost-effective than constantly having to retrain a giant model from the ground up. I mean, this quote really sums it up perfectly. RAG improves LLM performance by combining that external data with what the model already knows. So it's not about replacing the AI's brain, it's about giving it a massive library and a research assistant to make it smarter, more powerful, and a heck of a lot more reliable. So let's bring it all the way back to where we started. With RAG, we've basically changed the rules of the game. We've switched from that stressful, memory-only, closed-book exam to a much calmer, much more accurate open-book test. We've given the AI a library card, and the ability to look things up before it speaks. And that changes everything. So, the big question is this the end of AI just making stuff up? Well, while RAG is a massive leap forward in making AI more reliable, maybe it's not the final answer. Maybe it's just the first brilliant step in a much longer journey to keep our AI honest. Something to think about, isn't it?